So NPR has some new guidelines for what their hosts call certain abortion terms.
Now, this is what they say. They say, one thing to keep in mind about this law and others like it. Proponents refer to it as a, quote, fetal heartbeat law. That is their term. It needs to be attributed to them if used and put in quotation marks if printed. So this is actually sort of explaining this confusion I've had. They're just, because the heartbeat is part of the name of the bill, they're acting as if it's a concept not understood by science. Like, it's a heartbeat. Well, that's what they're calling it. But I mean, they're calling it that because it's accurate, right?
Yeah,
they're not calling it. I mean, yes, it does make a powerful point about life. It does. And it is a reason. And part of the reason they're doing it is to convince people, hey, this thing that you think you're quote unquote aborting is just life that you're ending. You know, I mean, that is part of the reason they're targeting the heartbeat. But it's like, it's in a way, a moment of coming together. I mean, I want zero abortions, zero. Okay, I don't want it to be legal. You know, when they say, hey, what this new law you're passing is just a Trojan horse for getting rid of abortion. It's not a Trojan horse. I'm telling you, it's right there. That's part of the plan. I want that to be the future, and we'll get there. However, in a way, it's a compromise from the right. Like someone who thinks, hey, this is life and you're ending life. You probably saying that I'll give you 6 weeks isn't the ideal position, right? You want life that begins at conception. You want it to go to the end of the pregnancy. However, it's 6 weeks.
But it's a really good step in the right direction.
And it's a really good line. It makes sense. If you're a Democrat, you can say, okay, well, look, I mean, think about this in the way we actually talk about abortion. A woman has unprotected sex or gets pregnant in some fashion and realizes they've made a mistake, then wants to abort their baby. Well, this gives them 6 weeks to do that. And they keep saying, well, they don't even know if they're pregnant. Well, they have morning after pills for a reason. Like this is when you make a mistake like that, if something happens that I shouldn't have done that was a mistake. I can't have a baby right now. That's why they have the morning after pill. You know, we've talked about this before in that, like, in a sensible world, the left-wing position is the morning after pill. Right, in a world, now look, I think there should be no abortion at all, but like in a sensible world with debate, it wouldn't be 9 months or right after birth you could still abort the kid. It would be, all right, look, if you made a mistake, before we even know that you're pregnant, you have a chance to stop whatever's going on, and we won't even know if anything even happened. Right, we don't even know if the person was pregnant. We wouldn't even know. It's like the blind firing squad. Right, like where, there's like 25 people, the guy's got the blindfold on and there's like 25 people with guns and no one knows who's shooting the real bullet in the blank, right? It's like that sort of concept. And it's like, I'm not saying that's a good position. I'm just saying like that would be a position that should be extreme in our society, right? Like at least, but it's not. It's like it's the very beginning of the pro-choice argument. So you'd think that there'd be some room for something like that, but that is part of the reason they do it. They go on to abortion procedures and terminology. And I mean, listen to this. Partial birth is not a medical term and has no exact parallel in medical terminology. Intact dilation and extraction is the closest description. Now, of course, that doesn't...
Extraction.
Right, extraction. Think about what extraction means, right?
Wow.
Now, that sounds like a doctor term, and that's why partial birth abortion exists, because what it does is it describes what's going on, and they don't like that. Also, it is not correct, and this I thought was interesting, the one point to the side of maybe the pro-life argument in this piece. Also, it is not correct to call these procedures rare. It is not known how often they are performed. Now, they're talking about what we would call partial birth abortion. They always say that's rare. I get this from pro-choice people from time to time. They're like, well, I mean, come on. What is it, 1% of abortions, 2% of abortions are late term, and we keep talking about that. Yeah, I guess we shouldn't talk about the 7 or 8 9/11s that happen every year, because that's basically what we're talking about when we talk about like third term, late term abortions, ninth month abortions, some of these partial birth procedures, which they, sometimes are earlier than 9 months. But still, like we're talking about tens of thousands of babies that could be born and are viable and could be, many babies are born and live at that point.
And NPR doesn't want you to use the late term abortion term either.
No, that's bad.
Well, it carries ideological baggage Stu. And
It does?
We don't want the ideological baggage of late-term abortion. It's
Unbelievable.
I mean, this is so partisan. This is so biased.
Yeah, I love this part. This is fantastic because we're talking about the partial birth abortion. It gives the impression that abortion takes place in the 8th or 9th month. In fact, the procedure called intact dilation and extraction is performed most often in the 5th or 6th month, the second trimester, which, by the way, is still overwhelmingly unpopular with the American people. The second trimester is not considered late pregnancy. Thus, late term is not appropriate. As an alternative, and let this roll off your tongue, Pat, because I think you
okay.
If you're going to say, hey, they're talking about late term abortions, instead say, as an alternative, they're talking about a certain procedure performed after the first trimester of pregnancy and subsequently the procedure, and then give the technical name. Instead of late term, they want you to use, this is a quote, call it a certain procedure performed after the first trimester of pregnancy. Why can't you say what trimester it's only after the first one? And subsequently, then say the actual name of the procedure. They also will not use the term abortion clinics. They say medical or health clinics that perform abortions. I mean, if that's not spin, I don't know what is. Because no one's disagreeing with the medical or health part of it. No one's saying, oh, we are against sonograms. There's no one saying that. The point is not to use abortion before the word clinic. The clinics perform other procedures and not just abortions. Well, I think if you say, McDonald's is a hamburger restaurant, yes, they also do serve Egg McMuffins, right? They do serve salads, though to call it a salad restaurant would be wrong, right? They don't seem to have a problem with that. It's also wrong to say George Tiller, the murdered abortion doctor, don't call him an abortion doctor. Instead, we should say Tiller operated a clinic where abortions are performed. And this one is, I think, the most clear example of bias. The term unborn implies that there is a baby inside a pregnant woman, not a fetus. Babies are not babies until they are born. This is all quoting.
Wow.
They're fetuses. Incorrectly calling a fetus a baby or the unborn is part of the strategy used by anti-abortion groups to shift the language, legality, and public opinion. Wow. And then finally, this is amazing because this one may even be more direct. On the air, we should use abortion rights supporter or advocates. Okay, so if someone is on the pro-choice side, they are abortion rights supporters or advocates. And you could say abortion rights opponents. However, it is acceptable to use anti-abortion rights, but don't use pro-abortion rights. You can use anti-abortion rights. So someone who's on pro-life side is against rights.
Yeah.
But you can't say pro-abortion rights. Now, if you were so proud of the right that you're talking about, why wouldn't you want to use pro-abortion rights? I mean, these are direct anti-abortion rights and pro-abortion rights. You can use one but not the other. Like, that is a clear example of how they want to do everything they can to control the language and win the argument.